What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the MMB Performance Podcast. It has been a little while since I've been on here, but with 7 weeks and some change coming up, the World Toughest Mudder, I am hyped. Brant is hyped, and we are ready to talk a little bit more about the race. We're going to talk about some mindset stuff. We're going to talk about strategies going into the race. We're going to talk about just balancing training and lifestyle, especially Brant trying to do a bunch of stuff and get it all done. So it'll be fun. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about. I'm going to bring up a little bit more, which I haven't on this podcast, about the organization I'm teaming up with for World Toughest Mudder to raise some money. So big World's Tough Mudder, hype up, push, and then a little bit more about training and everything going on. So Brant, appreciate you coming on and talk, dude.
I'm hyped. This is exciting. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, dude. So we're 7 weeks out. 7 weeks out right now, World Toughest Mudder. How are you feeling at this point? I know we've talked off camera. Your body is, let's say, beat up, but, but you're working through it. So how are you feeling overall, just 7 weeks out, your mindset at this point?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think I'm in a great spot. As good as I could ask for, really. We'll get into kind of where I was, I think, and whatnot, and during the course of this, but it's been a long road to get back to this point, and really my whole goal the whole year is just to get back to the start line. Anything after that is just going to be gravy and a blessing, but I'm feeling like that's actually a possibility now, so I should probably buy my flights. Haven't done that yet, but
should probably did you get a hotel or anything yet?
I have an Airbnb. Yeah, I did
okay
that. But
So you're not completely off the rocker with this one or anything like that. But it makes sense. You have a lot going on. And I think part of you is probably, am I going to be ready to put up the performance I want to put up at that point?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you go into a race like this, just getting there, having the belief that you can do it and putting all the work to get there, is, that's the payoff. Yeah, you want to meet your goals. But you also, you don't want to come in not feeling like you can hit the goals you want to do as well. So, it goes both ways. You want to have the reward of getting there, but also hopefully it goes well on race day. So
I feel the same. It's interesting because like last year being my first one, not a ton of expectations. It was more just to survive. Now, like we briefly talked about a few minutes before this, is I'm like, all right, 80 miles is that number. I know I'm capable of it. I know the body can do it. It's feeling beat up. I'm definitely dealing with more setbacks and injuries this time, at least on my side of it. But I've had a whole year more of training volume. So I feel like I'm more conditioned cardiovascular wise. I have more endurance, but I'm having these mini setbacks. I'll get up to like 40 plus mile weeks and then have to taper, and 40 plus mile weeks and have to taper. So it's this constant battle. But to your point, I'm definitely excited to see what you can do. And also knowing that there's a possibility I could put up a bigger number, most likely as long as things go as planned. I don't know how you feel, but that's it. It's not that I don't want to do things if I can't push it to the limit and hit a new record, but I don't know. If I knew I couldn't beat what I did before, I'd be hesitant to do it. I don't know if that's how you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different year, it's a different race, different people. So there's a lot of things you can't control. But yeah, in the back of your mind, a competitive athlete thinks they can do better, or you're not really that competitive.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, obviously I want to improve on my number too. But as soon as I toe that line, numbers go out the window and you're racing the day, you're racing the course. And mostly, I mean, you're racing yourself until the sun comes up. It doesn't really matter what anyone else is doing either. I mean, you got to get to the table, so to speak, to even start to race. And that doesn't happen until the sun comes back up. So, and a lot can happen before then, but
Well, you see, I mean, I always heard the midnight, right? It doesn't start till midnight. And then you said to me, it's really doesn't start till like 6, because you got to get through the night. But at the same time, there's so much that happens. And, I just feel like it's interesting because I had a point last year at 1 o'clock when everything hit the fan. So mentally for me, it's clearing that 1 o'clock in the morning piece when I hit my wall, and then just being in a better headspace and knowing that's what happened last time. And we're going to push through potentially that barrier if and when it happens again. But for me, it's definitely helpful. And then even last year, like you put up 90, right? I don't know what did you have I feel like you go in to give your best, but you want to win, right? When you get 90, I can't remember, were you happy with your 90 last year?
So in full transparency and being honest, when I signed up for the race, I wanted to win the whole thing. Like that, I'd never even done a Tough Mudder event before. I've
Yeah.
raced some other races, and I'd never ran more than a 50K. So 31 miles. So saying you're going to win and knowing that means you got to run at least 100 miles, and usually 105 is the kind of the golden number to win. It was very ambitious. But I've always been able to go into big events that I've never done and do pretty well. And the longer an event gets, the harder it is. Usually, the better I do. So I knew about mile 40 when we'll talk about it probably, but I had a torn labrum in my hip. My knee started to blow up. I mean, it felt like I was getting hit with a hammer on my knee at mile 40. And I had to start walking and jogging. And I knew pretty quick, like the math just stops to not math anymore. The time just on the course, the laps take too long. And even though I was only missing one obstacle a lap that I would take the penalty on, I could do every other obstacle. So um, up until that point, I was on pace to hit 100. I was there right behind the leaders overall. Um, and then me and my pit crew, we kind of just that kind of helped me realize like 100's out, but you can still win a world title. And that was, the real goal was to win a world title. End up being an age group title, but still in the top 10 overall for the elites from the open wave, which, yeah, I was happy with it. But yeah, I still have some bigger goals to come
Yeah.
back and and compete in that elite wave now.
Oh, for sure. I mean, at least you'll have that badass elite bib to run to start the race with. Now you just got a target on your back where you got people like me with the white one just gonna be
Yeah.
like, who knows what's gonna happen. But it is funny in that regard. Now, when you were going into that, you said mile 40 is when it kind of hit in. Was there an expectation that you thought that was going to happen? Like did you think the hip was going to start at some point? It was just a matter of tolerating when, or it was just then it hit?
Last year I didn't know it was torn. I knew I'd had hip pain going in, but I'd seen chiropractors and stuff, and it just felt like soft tissue. We would do soft tissue work, it'd go away. I never had to slow training down. Um, so I mean, I knew, or at least I had a sense that something could go wrong. I mean, I'm going to push way farther than I have ever pushed. Um, but yeah, it kind of just, the funny thing was in training, the hip hurt, and then in the race, the knee blew up. So that was like the first thing to go, and then my ankle, and then it came back to the hip. Um, but it was interesting because like I never had a moment of desperation or slowing down. I never spent more than 5 minutes in the pit. I never went back to my tent. Like it was just like, okay, reassess and go, and just, and I think that's part of racing kind of free, and not being attached to those numbers. Because if I was so attached to 100, then I would have never even come close to 90 because I would have given up at 50, because 100 was gone. So
How do you balance that goal of I want to win, I want 100, I'm only going to get 90, and then not letting it break you? Like, do you think that's part of your experience over the ultras and things you've done in the past? Do you think that's like a certain mental approach? Do you think that's just more of your DNA? Like, where do you think that comes out in you mostly?
yeah, I think again, kind of learning to love the process of becoming. That's, kind of my go-to is like, if I can get to the start line healthy and I put in all the work, then really everything else just doesn't matter. Like I've already grown. I've done what I really wanted to do. So that doesn't mean I'm not a savage on the course or really want to win, but I'm just free to let whatever happens on that day happen. Um, and so it really frees you to go both ways. If you have a poor day, it's okay. And if you have a great day, that's a bonus, So
Right.
um, yeah, so I think just being able to adjust on the fly. Yeah, I've raced a lot. I mean, I've been doing this coaching for over 15 years at different types of races and endurance. I've been a Division 1 athlete. It's just, so I think it's a cumulative effect of being there, coaching at a high level, um, and just being okay with being me. It doesn't. If I win a world title, I'm still Brant. If I'm in last place, I'm still Brant. Yeah, it
Right.
doesn't matter.
And I think
So
that's hard for a lot of people, especially if you are competitive and you come from that competitive world. I know last year for me, even though I said that the expectation wasn't to, I'm not going to win it. I just like, if I can get 50, great. 75 would be amazing, but we'll see what happens. But I almost went into the race like I had to be David Goggins mentality. I'm like, I have to be tough and I have to be like, "Rrr," and but what I've realized over the last year, because this is still new, I'm 2.5 years into like endurance, really like a year and a half into like ultra stuff. For me, which has been huge, is to like you have to enjoy enjoying the process, but even giving yourself some grace in the race. Like you're not being weak, but like taking a second to regroup or like refocusing because it's a long race. And if sometimes you want to grind through things when you're taking a step back for like 3, 4, 5 minutes can mentally reflip you to get you back moving faster. And it's this constant up and down where you don't have to be running at all times. You can take a second to regroup, which will get you in a better headspace or almost like, like the Sally McRae or something that an ultra runner, like smile, like relax, like it's okay, like enjoy the race, like, be serious, be focused, but you don't have to be like that certain make or break mentality throughout the whole thing because who knows, halfway through it, you could be hurting and then you catch a second wind and you make a push. But I think I struggle with that because I'd never been in the circumstance before. And when the wall did crash down on me, I wasn't able to regroup mentally to shift and continue to push like I wanted forward. It was like I could, but like my mindset was crushed at that point. And that's the struggle I had last year, which I feel like I can definitely do better with this year.
Yeah, I mean, like that's huge, is knowing it could come anytime. I mean, you're in your mind, you've mentioned I gotta be ready for 1 o'clock. It might come at 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
and the a couple hours into the race. You know what I mean? So like it's being able to be flexible and ready to roll with any of the punches. I raced. We talked on the last podcast. I mean, I ran with Chris, the female winner, for like, I don't know, 10, 15 miles of the race last year for a while through the night. And
92, right?
she ran 90 as well. Yeah. But she got sick. She like was feeling awful like 10, 15 miles into the race, and she's like hundreds out. This is not, I don't know. And, then we ended up running together and yeah, and she found her second win and she won again, so it's like, you just never know what's going to happen.
What do you think from you with dealing with the hip injury, having that goal and have to readjust the goal? And now, what do you think you learned the most from last year's race and then that you can take from this race based on that experience?
Um, yeah, it's interesting. Following last year, I couldn't run for 5 months.
Yeah. You
Knee
had
was
a
in
big
shape.
setback. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like, I mean, I gave up every other race this year. I didn't go overseas and race. And then I tried to do a 50K Spartan and got 20 miles in the race and my knee started hurting. So I took my first DNF of my entire life because I just knew that like pushing wasn't going to gain me anything. I didn't want another long setback. I was supposed to race the 12-hour toughest mudder in Chicago. Didn't start because I just felt like I had to keep training and that might derail my training for this race. So my eyes have been set on getting back to this race. So it's definitely different than last year. Last year, I don't think I took a single rest day. I trained every single day for a whole year straight. I was dialed in. I was also dealing with the loss of my wife, who was dying of cancer at the time. Um, so that was kind of, a lot of meditation type stuff for me to train. So I've given myself more grace, certainly, to rest when I need to this year. And a lot of it's just been pushing to like, I don't want to have surgery. What can I do to just make my hip as strong as possible? And just, see what my body can do and take what my body can give me each day. So it's different. It's not that I'm not working hard. It's just kind of a different approach. I'm probably running less. I'm hiking a lot more with a weighted vest, just to try not, time on feet, but not as much pounding on the hip. So it's kind of hard to say exactly what I took from last year because this year's just set up so different. It's kind of
Sure.
like a start over and figure it out type of deal.
Well, I think part of that, to your point, is you're talking about let's say a whole different game and taking your first DNF. I'm sure that's kind of like a mind fuck. Like it's just mentally like it's not who you are. Like
Yeah.
I remember the Saudi Arabia race you wanted, that was a big one going over there. Then the Spartan Ultra and all this different stuff you wanted to do. So I feel like to your point, in a different way, there's so many different mental challenges, adversities you had to go through this year to like, okay, I've never had to experience A, B, C, D, F, and G. So like in a way, you're more mentally tough dealing with this stuff, but it easily could have spun you in the other direction where like there's no way I'm gonna be ready for worlds, but you had to adapt, which is the whole point of the race anyway.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see because it is a whole different race, but you've overcome so much. So it's like, all right, if I can overcome this, I can still find a way to train. There's a way to piece this together. And I feel like, to your point, your mind is bulletproof, I feel like, to an extent. Like maybe not bulletproof, but it's strong. So as long as your body can move at a reasonable speed and tolerate it, you're going to put up a big number. It's just a matter of when that adversity hits, how you handle it.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly the hope and the mindset. Yeah, I mean, I'm human. It's just like when I sit and go, geez, I ran 90 miles. Like I feel tired after a 13-mile run, like it doesn't
Sure.
make sense. You can't hold it in your hand. Like you have to put all this work in, and then you have to take it one lap at a time. And like that's all there is to it. You can't figure out how to put your mind at that place. Like it just has to happen. You have to put all the steps in place, and take it as it comes. So, I mean, it's still everyone that's ever run super far at that race has to work really hard, and they have to take on the challenges that are presented on the day.
And
So,
it's so different race day. I did like literally a 5 mile run the other day, and I texted my wife because I stopped at like mile 3. And I'm like, my ankle feels sore. I'm like achy in my Achilles. I had to walk. I'm running like 10, 30-minute miles. And I'm just hurting. And then your brain goes, how the hell am I going to run for the next 25 and a half hours or whatever it might be? It's so crazy. And I think that's the shock factor. And you'll appreciate this. My friend Kat and Adam, they both just raced last weekend. I drove up to New Hampshire to support Kat in her second ever 50, and it was in the White Mountains. And it's so funny when you talk to someone about this, because first of all, no one has a concept of a 50-mile race. Second of all, when you say there's 15,000 feet of accumulated elevation and it's a technical trail, they have no concept of what that means. And then you tell them she came in second and it took her 17 hours. They're like, well, was she running the whole time? I'm like, you have no idea what technical trail running, elevation gain, like the whole nine. And I truly don't, because I haven't raced at a high level, but just supporting friends in these races, it's just like, and then just understanding the OCR world now with the ultras and stuff like that. It's like, it's crazy. So when you talk to this 24-hour race, it's most people don't think it's possible, or it's like it's unrealistic, not unrealistic, but it just doesn't comprehend that you're going to be moving for 24 hours. So it's always interesting. And I think that's the first thing. And I was talking to a podcast I did Wednesday with Robert Foster, who does the New England OCR. And that was super cool because we were talking about just, people don't understand that, like, that limiting factor of most of your accomplishments is just the belief that you can do it in the first place. So it's like, and then you just have to prove to yourself it is, and there's a blueprint out to do it. You just have to be willing to put in the work. So it is cool to see like your first 5K, your first 10K, the first half, the full, the 50, the 100, and that it's all possible, but it's just the ability to believe that you can do it and then follow the blueprint laid out in front of you and then put in the work. And it's just, that's what this race is so cool, because you see that belief that people can accomplish anything they want if they're willing to put in the work, and the adversity that is going to come. And then you learn so much about yourself in that depths of the adversity. So it's just cool.
yeah, no, I agree 100%. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that adversity, all those steps that they just come in the process to get there. The biggest change that's going to happen to a person is getting to the race. I mean, the race may change you and it may build your confidence. But confidence is built on consistency and putting in the work every single day. And if you can come into that race already believing, knowing who you are, then you're going to come out the other side the same way, and just feel really good about it. No matter what happens. So
it's like growth comes from being uncomfortable. It's simple as that. Like there's no around. You can't. I think you learn the most about being uncomfortable through physical discomfort. So like the more physically you push yourself to be uncomfortable, legs burning, heart rate high, like just fatigue setting in, I've learned way more about myself mentally, the depths, by being physically and uncomfortable. So I just think that's so important. And I don't know do you feel like part of it, I think you mentioned this before when we chatted, but that's like the fascinating part about endurance compared to like me training to do a 500-pound deadlift. It's like exciting, it's cool, it's a tedious process, there's a lot of discipline involved, but you're not tested like this. It's just so different. It's just so different. The depths that you have to go into and the mental games that are constantly going on. And I think that's what fascinates me about it. And I don't even like running. I really, really don't. I just talked to him today. I'm like, I don't even like running, but I'm running because I want this.
yeah.
And to hit this goal, I have to run, but I don't love it. If you ask me to do bicep curls, I would love to do bicep curls. That's why the bodybuilding me is behind me. It's just, that's it.
Yeah.
But it's hard, it's uncomfortable, and it's new, and I'm not good at it, so I have to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just so many different facets. I mean, we haven't even talked about nutrition or,
Yeah.
just like sleep and recovery and, to listen to your body. And I mean, we're running off on trails where, I mean, literally you could twist your ankle 5 miles into this race and be screwed up.
Game
Like,
over. You don't think about it, but it's
yeah.
true.
I mean, it's just like, yeah, there's just so many things that can happen. And yeah, I mean, that is the beauty of ultra
Well, like
distance.
the nutrition piece you brought up, like dive into that because that's something again, thought I had a game plan last year and then didn't have plan B, C, D, E, F, and G when stomach doesn't settle. This food doesn't taste good. Sweet fatigue. I mean, I know we've talked about this off camera. I still don't know how you literally had the sweetest of sweet things, and electrolyte drinks and carbohydrate drinks and goos with nothing to supplement it out then, right? So that's where I've been practicing my training runs. My long runs, I've been doing 5 mile or 6 mile loops and then leaving stuff in my car,
Yep.
practice 200 calories of this, 100 calories of this, go back out, come back around. And I've been practicing that to just see how things tolerate. And I've taken pieces of what you said, I've been using like raw nutrition, their fuel,
Mhm.
and that's a little sweeter, but it tastes really good. I dilute it a little, and that's like 200 calories. I'll do that. I actually bought, and I do like the what the heck is it called? It's more of like a whole food gel. It almost has like a jelly consistency. I feel like it's not like the goos are struggling. They're like
Yeah.
that stuff. So yeah, it's been interesting to try things out. And like I said, I messaged you a bunch over this last year, just trying out like try this bar, or try this gel, or try this, and getting away from certain whole foods. But it's again the when you explain to people the complexity of I need to get they're like I can't eat an hour before my workout, and you're like I got to eat 75 carbs an hour. I got to get this much electrolytes and hydration per hour. I mean, it's so different endurance because it contradicts like almost everything you've kind of got from basic knowledge.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, if you ask, and I know you've had a lot of the people in the top 10 on your podcast, every single one of us does something different, like so
Right.
it's individualized for sure. And you do have to practice. So yeah, I mean, I used, Tailwind and gels and goose for 24 hours straight, nothing, no whole food, nothing else. But that's all I trained with too. So like I mean, I found if it worked for me and I had stuff on hand. I mean, I had they'd bring a backpack full of stuff in case I felt like I need something. But like it was just, I mean, we had a routine. It was just like a machine, just come in, get the same stuff, go back out, and just rinse and repeat. So, and I hope it works again that way this year. And it might not, but who knows? We're
Wonder
gonna try.
how much of it is psychological that you need to have something because someone always tells you you have to have something whole food,
Yeah,
because in theory your calories are coming in, your calories are coming in. And let's say you're burning 700 calories an hour. Let's just say 600, and you're going for 24 hours. You start doing the math, like your output is over 10,000 calories, and at best you're probably taking in 4 to 5,000 calories.
yeah,
So you're in that deficit, but 4 or 5,000 calories of just that goos, gels, and liquids in theory is like really brutal. But how much of it is because we're told we can't, like we need to eat? I feel like part of it is a psychological piece, not just this is what it is, because you're getting the fuel and calories to do it. You just don't feel full per se.
yeah. And I think I mean, it can go, and because if you're someone that's gonna walk and run, well, then you probably number one, you're probably gonna feel like you want some more to eat. Because when you're running, I mean, more blood is going to all your working muscles. It's not in your gut. You generally don't feel like you can tolerate something heavier, because your gut's just not willing to digest it. So liquid and whatnot works better. So if you're more of a walker, you probably can tolerate more. You might feel like you need a bar and that kind of stuff. So it is different. But yeah, I mean, I brought an entire bag of Tailwind and I drank almost the entire thing
That's
during the race. And that's disgusting.
right.
But
Logically, the amount of carbohydrates and sugar you took in was like
yeah,
800 grams of sugar.
so gross. But I mean, that's all carbs and anything else is. I mean,
It
it's
is, right.
stuff,
You,
so
I was talking to a friend who's um like a dietitian, and then she had a client that she was talking to. She does a lot of endurance sports, and you start talking, people are like sugar's bad, carbs are bad, you can't have this, right? And then you're like in the running world, you're like, yeah, I'm consuming this many grams of sugar per hour. It's just funny because it's again, it goes into like, yes, this is what influencer social media stuff is, what's good or bad, but like when you're talking performance, it's a whole different ball game, and
I mean,
it is funny to just look at it that way. So I think my strategy, to the point we talked a few times, mine is to go, you said you're going to go similar approach. Mine's going to be about a couple hundred calories per lap in electrolyte carbohydrate drink. And then kind of supersetting it with like a goo or something just to chase it a little bit. And then bringing a goo or some type of goo on the course with me when we hit the water station.
yep.
So depending if it's between that hour and a half, it gets you 300 calories around that range. And then kind of seeing how I feel during that. And then testing out, like you gave me a bar and trying a couple different bars to see which I do like if I get to a point I need something a little more substance. Because I definitely walked a lot in the back half last year, which hopefully not as much this year so I can move faster. But I definitely tried to get too fancy and bought like 17 different things last year and used literally none. The only thing I did like when I was cold is like pulling into the pits and I was like 7 or 8 spoonfuls of hot mashed potatoes. It actually tasted really good at that point. I was like some instant mash, like I need something warm. And I was like, oh my gosh, like something about this. And then I was walking, so I was fine. But it was like a random thing. But yeah, I think I'm gonna approach it something like that and then have a couple plans and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, we had coffee and hot soup and all that kind of stuff all on hand just in case. Didn't touch any, but you just never know. So
No,
good to be
no.
good to be prepared. But
Yeah, I'm excited. I even the venue. I got the venue. I'm down there. I'm like a little bit. I think I'm like the venue's like 14, 15 minutes away from where my hotel is. So I was pumped about that. I just did like a normal like Holiday Inn and Suites type place.
yeah.
In Airbnb. I do like that they change the room out, clean it for you, like do the whole nine, just like, which is sweet. Hotel I booked. I was hyped about the hotel, but I was also hyped about the flight. My wife, she wanted a straight shot. So we did JetBlue, straight shot, TVs, like the whole nine, just says, it was a little more expensive, but she hates connecting flights, hates it. So straight down. And then I have Kat who just did that race coming down to run my pit again with me. So have the ultra background, but who's coming down for your pit this year? Do you know
Great.
yet?
I need to figure that out.
You want to pit next to me? I got backup.
No. Yeah, you can come pit with me. I'll be on the front row, I hope, because we get
Hey,
to
if you
pick.
can, hey, if you can give a friendly invite and just, I'll
Yeah,
take your bib here and there.
there you go. No, I'm hoping my best friend can come again, but he might be tied up. His daughter might have marching band state finals, so
Interesting.
we both have kids. It makes everything tricky, but I need to ask a few people that came last year, see if they want to come. But who knows? Maybe I'll just have my 9-year-old and 11-year-old sons just
Hey, man, they were
beat it
badass
up.
last year. You might as well try it again, right?
Yeah.
That's a
So
good transition too, because like I think a lot of people that are doing worlds think, especially at the level you're at, that it's like how many excuses as a coach do you hear that there's kids, there's this, there's that, I'm too busy, I got this going on. Like, how do you manage that, dude? Like, how do you manage your training, balancing dad of three, like all this stuff going on? Like, what does that look like on a day-to-day for you?
yeah, I mean, everyone's life's different. But yeah, I have a hard time when people make excuses because just an excuse.
Yeah.
You really want something, you're gonna figure it out. So my oldest daughter's in college already, so that's she's
That's
home.
so crazy.
Yeah. I'm old. No.
You ain't that old though. Like, how old are you?
38. Yeah.
38. So I'm 34. So not that much older.
Yeah. We got
I'm
started.
glad you're not in my age group. How about that?
Yeah. So, yeah, and then 9-year-old and 11-year-old boys at home. I've been lucky I built a business a long time ago that allowed me to be flexible to work from home, to take care of the kids. That was something I wanted to do. It also, when Karen got sick with cancer, that was a necessity too. So, I've been able to build that kind of in to have a flexible schedule for me. So I'm here in the morning. I put them on the bus. I can train, I can coach. Here when they get home, I coach all their sports teams in the afternoons. So I'm just involved, and you just figure out how to live an active life, and you just put in as much time as you can each day, and you don't really worry about it. You just do your best. So that's kind of my philosophy, is just I do what I can, and I work really hard when I can, and that's all I have. So I don't
That's
worry
all you
about
can do, right?
what else is anybody else doing. It doesn't matter. So we all have our different challenges, but yeah, for me, that's the life I've always really wanted, was to train hard, work hard, and be with my kids. So
I think that's important too, is the big part you said, obviously, is like taking accountability for your situation. Like there's only so much you can control. You control what you can. Um, not making excuses because it's easy to like play the victim of your own life of like, you can't do this because of this. And like, yes, more than anybody, life's gonna throw a ton of shit at you, but the way you respond to it, the way you handle it, and continue to move forward. And I think again represents like a lot of people that potentially want to do this race or trying to just deal with stuff in their own life or be successful in any aspect of their life, whether it's their career, their business, or like their fitness. I see it all the time. Again, it's just not as a priority to other things. So having those conversations, yeah, it's definitely not. And I do love that you talked about, like, again, just focusing on your situation, not comparing your situation to anybody else, even with the race or just like in life, because that's not gonna, it is as easy it is to do, whether you're on social and all that stuff. It's so easy to compare yourself to someone else. You see, like, I follow too many people that are way better ultra athletes than me. So I'm inspired by them, but all these
Yeah.
dudes going to the race, I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
I put on 38 miles this week. This guy just put in 57. I'm like, dang, like he's running 7-minute miles and I'm running like 9.5. But it's like you never know what's going to happen, and you only can focus on what you can control and your strengths. And
Yeah.
you never know what's going to happen race day either, right? So I think that's half the battle. So it's like using it to inspire you, but not letting someone else's goals or whatever they're doing, knock you down in a way, if that makes sense. So it makes total sense to me, man.
And that's, I mean, everyone that toes the line at that race, in the top end has the exact same goal. Like every guy I ran next to, I asked, what's the goal? I want to run 100. I want to run 100. I want to,
Yeah.
beat all those guys. You know what I mean? Like, so everyone wants to win, but you have to come back to what kind of work did you put in, and it's your system and it's you, and it doesn't matter what they did because they're not you. And it's just, did you do the best you could for you, and then you just lay it on the line when you get there. So it doesn't matter if someone else is running 60-mile weeks. That might be terrible for them. They might be overtrained by the time they get to the
Yeah.
race. But it doesn't matter. I mean, if your Achilles hurts or your back hurts, then 40 might be all you can do, and it might be all you need too. There's no written rule that says you've got to hit this number to get ready to race that, on race day. So
The dude pitting next to me was a good example of that. And I won't say his name. He's a cool guy, but he was even like, dude, I've ran multiple 100-mile races going into this race, and I did 50. He hit walls. He went out too hard. The heat got him. He's not used to
yeah,
being cold, wet, soaked. He'd never been in a wetsuit before. He got hypothermic stuff going on. Like, he just battled all kinds of stuff because it was a new event, right? And then, you're a great runner, but can you swing from monkey bars? Can you can you do all that stuff? How many men, dude? I mean, I was like you. I think I only had like 6 to 7 miles in penalty loops. It wasn't a lot.
yeah,
5, 6 miles in penalty loops, where how many people were good runners but were broken mentally because of those huge loops?
they're
Like,
awful.
you miss one and they just
Yeah,
crushed people's like
yeah,
psychological piece.
sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
that I think that destroyed a lot of people, and that goes back to like understanding of what your approach is to the race. And it's like, not, you don't want to set up yourself for fail for any race, but at the same time, like, this could happen. Hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, having a headspace to go to that doesn't just, all right, this happened, focus on this now. All right, I fell off. All right, we got to do this. Like this, not going to like, oh, it's over. Oh my God. Like, it's easy, dude, especially when you're exhausted and vulnerable.
yeah, yeah. I think so. I mean, having goals clearly laid out and working through that in your head during training is super important. Envisioning how the race is going to go, visualization is important, and having the right pit crew helps too. Like, because if you are low and you're not feeling it, they can pump you up, and making sure they're in line with what you want to achieve in the race. That was something I was super clear with them last year. Is I wasn't coming just to do the race. I was coming to win. And if they weren't on par with that, then they shouldn't show up like that. It was very clear. Like, we all need to be on the same page. And if I look like absolute trash, you need to tell me I look good, and you need to push me back out there. And so that's I think the mentality is coming in is important, and then making sure you're surrounded with that same mentality when you're there.
I won't forget. I remember you posted it. I actually snapped a picture of it and I saved it, and it's somewhere in the abyss of my like 30,000 photos.
Yeah,
But what you sent to your team, I was literally like, I have to have something like this built up because it made so much sense. It was like the message you sent when you went before they left, like, if you want to come, this is your last chance to back out. Basically, if you're coming, you need to be in this headspace. I need this energy. I need this. And then it was like another, like, a game plan. Like, here, Sally talks about like breaking your race into 3 pieces. I think you had like 4 pieces or potentially, or something along those lines of like,
yeah,
here's my mantra, this point. Here's my mantra at this point. Here's my headspace at this point, and then this point. And I need you to make sure that you're reminding me of these points. And this is the game plan, and then almost mentally preparing yourself like what each of those mantras mean to you, and then almost practicing it going into the race. So when it's like we got 4 hours left, it is time to empty the tank.
Yeah.
And I think that is super important for worlds more than or any big ultra. Is I think people talk about the nutrition, they talk about the training, but like what's your approach through this entire race? And so because that I think is a missing piece that I thought I had like just it's like when you don't write something down, you're like, I think I'll be in this headspace at this point and this point. But like having someone and a team in place to do that, I feel like that was huge for you anyway.
Yeah, man, I think it was helpful for sure. And then just I think vocalizing it, making it real, put it out there like that. That's just as big as I think as anything else, because now you're committed to it. For you to say it, you believe it. And if you can't do that, you probably don't believe it. So
Right.
so that's important coming into a race. And then you just, I think the other thing is like, I mean, shit hit the fan so many times in the race, and you just laugh. Like that's how I just laugh
Yeah.
things off. Like you get shocked and the freaking pole blows out of your hand, and like it's like the worst thing in the world, and people are screaming. It's like, whatever, this is stupid, but let's figure it out. Like
Yeah.
and move on to the next one. But just laugh it off. And that's, I mean, that's yeah, my one of the favorite quotes is, smile or you're doing it wrong. Like it should be enjoyable. Yeah, it can suck, but you can also like enjoy how awful it is, but how cool it is that you're actually getting to experience that, and you're putting yourself through it. So
Yeah, it's funny because I've heard too many people say that like smile when it's at its worst, or like when you're hurting the most, smile when you see your picture, smile. How's it going? It's been a it's like holy moly, here we go. Like it's just I think it's too. I've been almost practicing that on a run. I go out for a run and I'm like, oh, my legs are heavy, and I just try to smile, just like almost like laugh at myself in a moment as I'm running, and you're like, this is what you wanted, Jeff. Here it
yeah,
is. Here's the discomfort. Here's the challenge. Like this is what you wanted. So even if you're doing a 5, 10, 15, 20 mile run, you're not doing 75, 80 or whatever the number you want is, but practice like enjoying this. Like, all right, your ankle hurts. How are you going to work around it? Because what if this was race day? You got to start working through it now, and you got to like problem solve. And I think that's pay it too. It's because you said it. You're gonna have so many highs and lows, and
yeah,
things are gonna hurt, and then that hurt's gonna go away to a different spot that hurts, which goes to another spot that hurts, and then your hand hurts, and then it's like so it's just a constant like firefighter, just putting fires out and managing things as best as humanly possible,
yeah,
and that's a big piece of it. So like with this training up, like last year you said you were training every day. This year we've talked a little about it, but I wanted to touch base again on it. Is you talked about a lot more of the rucking, you talked about swimming, you talked about and I think that's important too because you mentioned a few different times when it comes to towing the line with all these athletes, their nutrition was different, but like the training is always different too. And again, finding I think what works best for you, and then based on your old injuries, like you have to figure your own system out and just trust that it's the best that you can do.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a big thing. I've kind of mentioned to you like overall, yeah, this is a running race, but like stability is number one. Like you're trying not to break down, for as long as humanly possible. So there's definitely a lot of strength training, not just for the hips that was hurt, but just overall for core strength, for all the joints. When you got three joints, your hip, knee, and ankle that are going to get beat to hell. So you need, the stability, single leg work, a lot of strength training, but also like you're moving your body for 24 hours. So, swimming is a great way to move your body. And so is, I take the boys rock climbing 2 or 3 times a week. That's great for upper body strength, but it's core strength, it's moving, it's being active. I coach their sports team, we're moving. So like movement, it doesn't have to be like perfectly specified to the activity you're going to do, because this race is not a marathon of just running, like this is an ultra distance of dying slowly, like
It is.
so like you just need to be able to, and the one of the coolest things that they do for this race is they don't tell you what the obstacles are until a few days before the race. So there is no way to like perfectly plan and train for them. So you have to prepare for everything. And I think that's the beauty of why I like it so much, is like I do like I'll go on a run and I'll see a playground and I'll go and just do the monkey bars or do something on the play set, and then keep running, or bear crawl up a hill, whatever. Like you just got to be ready to put your body in different positions. over and over and over. Especially when you're tired. So that's, training when you're tired is important as well. So,
well, I was training last year to be really strong, just in general, all around. But this year, it's definitely transitioned to way more pulling, gripping, pulling, rowing. So, and it's a combination of that endurance. So, like, I was doing pull-ups 3 days a week, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna do weighted pull-ups, we're gonna do body weight pull-ups, we're gonna do controlled eccentric and concentric pull-ups. Then we're gonna do, so all those variations. We're doing heavy ass single arm dumbbell rows to work on my single arm grip strength, and then it's like the other side, and then we're doing different type of just so much pulling, rowing, and grip strength stuff. Dead hang from both arms, dead hang from one arm, like just which is stuff I didn't do enough of, I think, last year, and where I did fail some obstacles. And I think it was just a matter of, it wasn't my grip, but having put partial tears in both my rotator cuffs and a partial tear in a labrum. Remember when I was like, also, you could probably relate to this. How much do you weigh right now, Brant?
160.
Okay. So I'm like 175. Now, right? That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
So
you have some extra mass up top you probably don't need.
that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I was watching Ninja Warrior, and so when I competed, I was never the biggest guy, but I came in shredded when I was in bodybuilding. I was watching Ninja Warrior, and they go, this is the largest Ninja Warrior if he completes this course ever to finish it. He was 5'10", 180. And they're like, this dude is like obese basically because he's 5'10", 180, and he's like all fat Ninja Warrior. And he was like lean, but just built. Yeah. And I think that's where I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, I got like 7-8 weeks left. The problem I ran into is my goal was to put on a lot of strength, and I did put on some muscle in the off season. But going into this, I wanted to diet down and be as light as humanly possible, because hanging an extra 15, 20 pounds from one arm is a lot. But I got too deep into this now, where being in a deficit and trying to increase performance in a deficit taxed my nervous system too much. And then I get too fatigued and my performance declines, and then my recovery is poor. So it's a weird spot where I'm kind of committed to be like 172 to 175, unless I can fuel around workouts. And as I taper a little, like, you know what I mean? It's just at this point, it's inevitable a little bit.
It is. Yeah, I mean, that's something I work with my athletes all the time. If you want to lose weight, it needs to happen in the off season.
Yeah, like, I did the opposite. I got stronger to put on muscle mass.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, your body will naturally lean up when you're putting on high volume and that kind of stuff, but like, it can't be a number on a scale, because if you try, like you said, like if you try going to deficit when you're training the hardest, when you need to actually be eating more than you're burning so that you can recover and keep pushing, you're just burning the candle at both ends, and it just doesn't end well. So
yeah, it's happened to me already a couple of times, because I was like, I'm going to figure out a way to do this. I'm just going to because I've tracked my calories for like a decade, just since the bodybuilding side. So I can tell you how much I'm eating on a day-to-day, and, carbohydrates, protein, blah, 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 blah. So I know what I'm eating. And I was like, okay, I'm consistently maintaining this weight and I'm eating this many calories. Like, I need to create a smaller deficit. So, but to your point, that run, the legs feel heavier. I feel more tired. I feel like my performance is well. I can't lift as much. So that's the negative of me going to this. I'm like a smaller Nick Bear trying to do this fucking race, where Nick's, when he's like the unicorn of like being 195 doing these ultras. I'm like, well, I'm 175 doing a lot of OCRs. So it's,
yeah, I mean, you can keep the strength by keeping the reps low and the weight high, and then just try to stay away from the high rep bulking stuff.
Right. More hypertrophy work, surplus of calories. But the problem I ran into, I think, is it's the underlying ego a little, right? I still want to be jacked.
Yeah.
And that's
turn it off for 2 months. You can turn that back on later.
No, I know. But like at this point, it's kind of going to be hard to do that.
Yeah.
7 weeks out, what's the best, because the problem is as I increased my output, I was increasing calories, so I wasn't even in a deficit, so I wasn't burning body fat off.
Yeah, it's tough. I was just telling someone that the other day, is like, I'm always at this point where like my abs start to show and I start to get really lean, but then like the fire gets so hot, I eat like it. I mean, I eat like it. Like, and then literally like the abs like disappear in like 2 or 3 days, because like I have to just keep eating, Right.
But you're getting single-digit body fat. You're craving food like crazy. And this is why, like, when I was competing and I was doing bodybuilding, all that stuff, I'm like, hey, I can help build your physique. I can get you lean for stage ready. we need to keep your cardio very low intensity. Just moving more, slow burn, extra calories. Like I'm not going crazy. Let your diet do the majority of the work. Move more, get more steps. Because if you go run like 3 miles, dude, you can eat the house. Like you're
Yeah.
starving. So like it's the last thing you want to do in a deficit because you're just gonna overeat calorically.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. So if I get not if long as things go as planned, when I get my 80 and I'm doing my first lap with the 75, I might be the jackedest I've been in the race while finishing that much race. So
There you go.
it'll be interesting, dude. So it'll be good.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a question with you. It was about what was it about? Sorry, it'll come back to my head. But like I think that's the other piece, which is interesting. I was talking to someone about too. Someone asked me like in the class that I was teaching, and they're like, "What audiobooks or like podcasts or stuff do you do?" Because I said I love the mental performance, like I love the psychology side. Do you have any like people that you go to, or just like things that you like enjoy listening to, or do you like reading, or is it always just a kind of a continuing learning thing for you?
Um, yeah, it's a great question. I think over the years, I mean, I definitely got into different podcasts and stuff, and I've read a lot of different books. It's weird because like I've been just so deep in my own life for quite a while, just dealing with my own, you know, different difficulties with care and passing and being a single parent, all that kind of stuff. Um, I think that's enough. I mean, I think about it all the time. I'm like, running for 24 hours is nothing compared to,
What you
what
went through?
what I've battled the last 9 years. It just isn't. So I think that's one part, and that's kind of like the one side of me. It's like I know I'm tougher than everybody else. Like I just have that in my bag. That's who I am. When you couple that with I'm going to work extremely hard too, like it just you get really tough, and that's who knows, maybe I'll get broken too. But you just but in the back of
Yeah.
my mind, I've put in a lot of work mentally and physically. Um, and so that's kind of, I think more so it's just my own life experience. But I pulled stuff from, I mean, I read a ton of books when I was first coaching and all that kind of stuff. But
Which do you
I think,
think? How much do you think that people get caught up on reading, listening, taking advice, reading, listening, taking advice, and then never take action?
yeah, I mean, mood follows action. So you have to go and just do it. And then your confidence builds and you want to do more of it and you find out where your limits are and you just keep pushing that up. Yeah, I mean, you have to be a doer. You can't outthink yourself. You can't think I'm going to run 100 miles without actually putting the work in and figuring out how you're going to get there. So, yep, just
No,
start.
I agree. And I think I've made that mistake so many times, especially the business side, probably more than anything, because the fitness has always been my bread and butter. Like I'm very confident if I have a fitness goal, I've accomplished enough in the physical fitness world, like challenges, competitions, that I know I'm capable of it if I'm willing to put in the work. And I know that I can do it. But same thing, I haven't been super successful in the business side. So there's always like, I need to learn more, I need to learn more. And then you just don't take as much action and you're not posting or doing or whatever the thing might be. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I feel like that's always an issue. And I think in the fitness side, I see that so much with my clients is they want to have the perfect plan, the perfect routine, the perfect this. And it's like, you just got to start doing stuff. Like, like you're not gonna be able to do a 100-mile race or a 24-hour race unless you try and see what you can do, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's also just like giving yourself grace, especially with business and training. Like it's not going to happen overnight. There's also you define your own success. There is no like set plan. You're not supposed to be X, Y, and Z at a certain age. I mean, some of the best guys in this race are old and like we're up in the upper limit where most people don't race at all anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, um, so it's just you're on your own path. There is no set timeline. Um, and you're just discovering yourself as you go. So that's, just enjoy the process. And, if you can be at peace with how you're growing and living, then you are successful.
My wife and I just talked about, so me and Bree, she was saying how she's a very type A person and she likes structure and be able to plan things out. And, we're probably a year or two away from kids and this whole thing. And my job since moving in December or November last year has been unstable. So ups and downs, as you know, as a coach. And then I have some in-person stuff. I have some online person. I'm teaching this class at Springfield, but they underpay you like we talked about like crazy. That's just part of of adjuncting. And I think we're almost at the point, I love the flexibility of my lifestyle, but like our long-term goals, it's having more stability and be able to do more stuff. And I think I'm at that spot too, to where I probably held on to certain things for too long because I didn't want to consider myself a failure. And I, instead of just like going with what probably would be the best for our life and our goals, holding on to like, I can't fail as a coach, or I can't fail as this, or like, and it's like, if I ever quit and don't do this in-person thing anymore, that means for the last decade, I wasn't successful. And it's hard to let go, to your point, and give yourself some grace of like, hey, like, it's okay, like, or if you do something else and it isn't the same potentially you spent all this time of your career doing, but it's still related and you're happy doing it, and it allows you to do all these other things because you have more money, you have paid time off, you have the stability. So it's interesting because it can be going in any direction, but it's always that fine line of giving yourself grace but not excuses.
Yeah.
And that's like a hard balance, I think, for almost everybody.
It is. Yeah. I mean, you have to know what your overarching goals are for you and your family. That's super important. Mine was the other way. Karen was a nurse. She worked night shift for the first 10 years. So I need to be home. I basically raised the kids. I put them to bed. I was there in the morning, so me working from home, and I made less money, but my kids never spent a day in daycare. I never paid for daycare. So like, I was with them all the time, and that's like $20,000 a year. You know what I mean? Like, for not put kids in daycare. So you can make less if you spend less, for one. But so yeah, so that stability for us was me being home with the kids, and that's not to say that coaching hasn't been successful. I have a full client list every year. I have athletes all over the world. So being able to do both is it's been a huge blessing. But I'm not Instagram famous. I don't like all this stuff. Like, I just don't, that stuff doesn't matter to me. I don't care if people think I'm successful or not. Because I wake up happy every day. So
Well, I think that's that quote of, putting in the work, doing it in the dark, and eventually, like, hey, they don't know who Brant is, and he comes out and drops 100 miles on your head, right? So it's like and it's like not even you care what everyone thinks, but it just shows that I think a lot of people are very flashy, and it's like with my own stuff, like I try to find this balance. There is a little bit of ego to it for sure that over the years I've been better with in the past, where when I was competing and then I got hurt and I couldn't post all my stuff, and I was like, oh my God, my identity was so tied to bodybuilding, where
yeah,
now it's a lot better, but for me, it's more of a, I'll document, I'll post, I'll do some stuff, and then I won't for a while, and then I'll actually get a couple messages here and there, which is kind of cool. They're like, hey man, I'm doing worlds. It was cool when you were posting because like it's good hype up. And I was like, like I did enjoy it, but if some people like it, then I'll continue to do it. And it kind of keeps me accountable. But it is interesting, man. The whole thing is interesting. What I was gonna say, one other thing I want to talk about quick is with it's interesting with you racing this. Have you ever done, because I'm doing the foundation this year, teaming up with Oscar Mike and trying to raise money for the veterans and stuff like that. Have you ever done any stuff like that in the past on your own? Or like, is there any foundation stuff that you've ever done, or has it been mostly just you do your own thing and trying to train like that?
yeah, I've done a few in the past. It gets pretty hard. I think it's amazing you're doing it. I think it's great, and um, I think that's going to be another one of those things where you learn that, like, it doesn't mean you're not successful if you don't raise as much money or get as much,
Yeah.
feed as you're hoping. You're doing it because it calls to your heart, and that's all that matters, and it's going to make a difference. So that's it can be hard mentally if you like are really ramped up about it, and then you don't raise as much as you thought you could or whatever. It's still super important. It's still a cause that matters. So yeah, I've played with that in the past some, and I thought about it. Obviously, breast cancer awareness, all that kind of stuff is important to me. But
Sure.
yeah, I think it's money can kind of murky things as well too.
It
So I think
does. Does.
so yeah, for me, I guess a lot of times it's more just trying to live it. I write a lot of posts, about how I'm thinking, that kind of stuff. And there's just a lot of things that I do that nobody knows about too, and that's perfectly fine. It's for me and it's for those other people. So that's doesn't have to be documented to be important as well. So
No, I think that's a big message. I mean, I really do, because it's interesting. I follow a lot of pages on social, and they'll raise. So you'll see it like homeless people, right? And they go up to them and they're like, "Hey, man, if you had $100, what would you get?" And then they do all this great things for them, and then everyone donates to give them money, so then they can spend it there. and obviously it's like really cool to watch and these people donating, but then there's also like a lot of the people that are like, did you do it for the right reason?
Yeah.
Did you do it to build a big social media following, and or did you do it truly to like help do more? And it's that fine line of, if you buy a coffee for someone in line, hold the door open, do you want to go tell everybody about it, or you just genuinely did it for the right reason?
Yeah.
It is just an interesting double-edged sword for sure.
It is, yeah, because at the end of the day, if those people that raised money and got famous help people, well, good. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad, but like, yeah, I think for me, what I found is like just chatting. I wrote a post about this the other day that my like most happy place during the week is seeing the old people out on the trail and just stopping and talking to them while I'm running and seeing them every week. And, they're barely moving, but they're still out there. And that's more inspirational to me than winning a world title will ever be. To keep living that active lifestyle late in life and seeing a smile on their face, talking to them is, lights me up too. So,
Oh, it does. It does. And then, oh, this is what I was going to think about earlier. I just couldn't think of. It's off topic, but we were talking about it before. Is do you have like we talked about the headspace. We talked about the plan that you had with your team, your mindset. Is that basically the same approach you're going to take from a pre-race situation or pre-race ritual or pre-race prep? So that week going into the race, is there other than like tapering mileage and stuff like that, is there anything you do specifically mentally, or is that kind of your same approach?
um, yeah, I think it'll be pretty similar, kind of just expressing what the goals are again. Um, I feel this year, I mean, it's kind of even less, it's just less stressful just
Oh,
with
I can imagine.
everything. Like I've done the race once, it's been a year and a half since Karen passed. Um, like I said before, like I'm gonna wake up the next day after the race and just still be dead and move on with life. It's not gonna really matter. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I want to come out and put out a big number and um, you know, I don't know who's coming this year. I don't think there was a prize purse, so I don't know if that's going to
No, I
change.
don't think there is this year as of right now.
I don't know if different pros are going to not come or whatever, but
I won't mind.
so and we didn't talk about the weather either. I think
Oh yeah, yeah.
it'd be interesting in this race because the average is only like high of 78, low of 60, which if that holds and it doesn't rain and it's not as humid, this could be really fast. Like, and it could be flat. Like, I don't know if there's going to be any hills there in Florida. Like, that could be like perfect race conditions for like a lot of miles.
Do you
But it's
think that
also
benefits you?
no, because I'm not a pure runner. I want it to suck.
I was in the same boat though. I'm
Yeah,
literally I bought a membership to a gym for 8 weeks to do sauna work like five,
yeah,
7 times a week, just to
yeah,
start getting acclimated to like horrific heat
yeah,
and just start to get the body to adapt a little bit. And then to your point, if it's not going to be humid and hot, shit. I wanted people to get hypothermic and me
yeah.
not get
And
hypothermic.
that's the thing is you could have both. It could be 85 in the morning and still drop into 50 at night. So yeah,
I kind of want that. I
if you're
kind of
racing, prepare for everything because uh this is the kind of weather that could really flip on your head. I mean, it could rain, it could be humid, it could get cold. Uh,
crocodiles everywhere. It's gonna be
yeah,
epic.
could be that. So yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. I think pacing will be still be important, but um yeah, I first when we talked before, I was like, it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot the whole time.
Yeah, it said
Pacing's gonna be
like mid
important,
80s initially.
Yeah.
When I predicted the average year, it was like high mid 80s to low this, and it was. But now, who knows?
I mean, I didn't all I put on was like sleeves last year. I didn't put a wetsuit or any of that kind of stuff on. Which so I think it'll probably be similar for me. But if you're walking and it's in the 50s,
It gets
like
cold because you're wet.
you'll be cold. Yeah.
Like
So
when you hit that
you
ice
definitely
water and you walk and you just
you
get the
need
wind hitting you, and
you need everything. So it'll be interesting. But it could be like it could be windy, it could be dusty. I haven't really looked at where the venue is exactly, but
so it's 50 miles east of Tampa.
uh,
Um, so it's in the middle of nowhere. It's like, and then you have like Orlando, which is like 50 miles away also, but it's like this middle point in the abyss. There's swampland around. That's why the joke is about gators and stuff like that. Um, all the memes are going out about the gators and all that funny stuff. So, but yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I still have to purchase, to your point. Like I have a big bundle sitting in my Amazon just waiting to get bought, from like electrolytes to like the gloves I had last year. Just all this little nitty gritty stuff, and it all adds up. It all gets up pretty quick.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, definitely, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But
Yeah, I'm excited for it though, dude. I think it's gonna be a ton of fun. I think I can go into this one with uh like the day I had no idea where I was gonna put my tent and like how it was gonna work, and I was like panicking going down there. So now this time, like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get there Thursday early. I'm gonna get all my stuff at the store I need. I'm gonna get there Friday morning. I got like 10 to this time too. I have like 10 to 20 people I know doing the race that I talked to. So through social. So I'm like, yo, hit me up before. We'll talk before. Like me and you are like, let's go do a little Facebook Live. We'll stream it into the Facebook group at Worlds. Just like we're here, let's go. Like just getting pumped up for it. So I think it's gonna be a way more relaxed, fun experience building up to that day compared to last year. It was that I have no idea what's gonna happen.
I agree. It'd be awesome.
Cool. Awesome, man. Do you have anything else top of your head? Any things that we want to talk about you might have missed?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, anybody listens to this, if they have questions, I'm an open book. I've coached athletes all over the world at all different distances, so I'm not here to sell myself. I'm here to help. So
You can get them at the easy price of dun dun
that's right.
dun.
No,
Minimum contract 3, 6, and 12 months. No.
you reach out and
Well,
ask me a question, I usually just answer it. So
yeah, well, you've helped me a ton, so I'll give you a shout out in that regard. And like I said, I've been asking you odds and end questions over the last year regarding like your training style, me having setbacks, you with I picked up a vest because you're like pick up a vest. I've used it a handful of times already. So just little odds and ends, trying to figure out what works best. And yeah, it's gonna be a hell of a ride, man. I'm definitely excited just to leave it out there, and I'm excited for the ups and downs, and I'm almost like you said, you'll be you at the end of it, but this one definitely is more meaningful for me than last year in regard to just having a set goal, where last year I really didn't. So I'm just excited to like give my best effort. And I think I told you when my wife, I crossed the finish line, she was crying. Did I tell you that?
remember now.
Okay. So long story short, I won't make it too long, but I'm getting ready. So I stopped at 22 and a half hours. Got to 60 miles. I could have went back out for 65. My wife thought is if you didn't complete the 24 hours, it was a DNF.
Oh, interesting.
That was the rule she thought. So I said, I'm not going back out. I'm limping, I'm beat mentally, like 60 or 65, I don't care. Doesn't make a difference to me. I don't get a cool Benny or bib or anything like that. So then um she like walked away, and then I talked to Kat and I'm like, where'd Bree go? And she's like, she's crying, she's upset. And I'm like, whoa, like I just crossed the finish line. Like I just want like a big hug. I'm like, I just did it. Like this is amazing. And then she's crying, and I go over to her and I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, I didn't want you to quit. Like you quit, then I know when you get home you're gonna be upset, and I know like you're never gonna let this down. You didn't finish the race. I'm like, hon, I finished. Like I didn't DNF. She's like, you didn't go the 24 hours. I'm like, hon, I didn't DNF. It's okay. She's like, you didn't DNF. I'm like, no. I'm like, it's okay. Like at the same time, I'm a little annoyed because I'm just exhausted, right? But I'm trying to comfort her because she was so emotionally like beat that I thought I quitted. But so like this year, I'm like, hon, I'm not DNFing unless something catastrophic happens, and I just want a hug without crying this time. That's all I want.
Well, there might be some crying if you
I swear my
yeah.
life, if I hit my 80 like the plan goes, and I
Yeah.
do 1 mile with my 75, I'm completely content crying across the finish line because I know the amount of effort it takes to do that. And I think only like five. The cool part, dude, I think 5% made 75 miles last year.
All right.
I think it was 10. So I'm like, okay, I'm cool with top 5%, and then
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
There. It's gonna
So
happen.
it is, no doubt, brother. So till next time, we'll be talking soon, and then I think it'll be good. We'll go live and as it gets closer and go from there. So if anyone has any questions, hit me or Brant up. If you want more experienced advice, hit Brant up. If you want more bro advice, hit me up. But it'll be good. So we'll talk soon. Everybody, keep an eye out for the next podcast. Probably gonna be doing weekly going into Worlds. I think I have a couple guests already lined up for next week, which will be sweet. A couple people doing Worlds, and then who just won the Killington Ultra? He's won it 5 times.
Is it Joshua?
Josh Fiore, yeah. So me and Josh, we're gonna meet up either next week or next week after to talk too. He'll be one of your battles right there, dude. He'll be your boy
Well,
battling.
he's a good dude, so that'll be
He's a
fun.
great dude, but I'm gonna put my money on you, so it's okay.
Uh-oh. Pressure's on.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Chase discomfort.
Later.